Chris,
Right.
Chris, are you going to tell us about how Yorkshire bravely
Almost fought back.
Yeah, I'll give you a spectator's view of 4 days. I went to all 4 days. Yeah,
right?
And I met some interesting people, which might be of interest to the group. First and foremost, Keith, thanks for this, because it gives me a wonderful opportunity to say that my team, Thorsby Park, okay, won promotion last Saturday to the second division, and didn't expect at my age to be part of a team that wins promotion. So thank you for that opportunity. However, controversy, I was a very small part, controversy reigns because we don't know whether we're the champions or not. Wow. That would have been decided in a small room in Worksop last night because the league have made a complete, I don't know what adjective to use. Various teams have been accused of playing ineligible players, meaning points have been docked and sent out all over the place. We went into our last match 13 points clear, but were told by the league that we were actually 3 points behind. That's on the night before a vital game. Anyway, the ineligible players don't involve our club, but they do have an impact on results, which means we're either runners-up or champions. It's a mess. Good luck to whoever was involved last night, because you're going to need it. You couldn't make it up. Right, to the match. My attempt at the outside broadcast last week was not recorded because clearly I was talking nonsense from the back of the stand, and I must have offended somebody. So I'll recap. Notts were going still into the last match against Yorkshire with the possibility of winning the title and being in this morning's Bob Willis Trophy final. It started about an hour ago. Yes?
Lancashire 12 for 6.
What?
In that match.
12 for 6.
It's just come up on the screen.
Thank you. Yeah. What's the date? The 28th of September. We're trying to play a cricket match at 10:30 in London.
Ian's going to play.
Nonsense. Anyway, thanks for that update. I didn't know that. Notts had prepared the greenest wicket I've ever seen at Trent Bridge since the days of Hadley and Rice in the 80s. Was difficult to see where the pitch started and the outfield began. They clearly was banking on winning the toss and bowling Yorkshire out cheaply, but it backfired and Notts went in first. At the start of this match, any one of 4 counties could have won the league title. That's Lancashire, Hampshire, Warwickshire, or indeed Notts. The umpires were well known to me. They were Richard Kettleborough, former Yorkshire and Middlesex player, Rob Bailey, played very high standard for Northampton, England, and Tim Boone, another ex-Yorkshire and Leicestershire player, as the match referee. Before the game, Gary Balance dropped out through illness and wasn't available. Yeah, senior player. Steve Patterson was injured as the skipper. He couldn't take part. And for various other reasons, Yorkshire didn't have Root, Bairstow, Milan or Willie. So it wasn't exactly the strongest lineup they've ever had, but some very good players. I asked people, how the hell did Notts get 292 for 9 on day one? I mean, the wicket didn't look as if you could get probably 100. I asked some very learned people, none of them knew. Except that they didn't think Yorkshire bowled, they thought Yorkshire bowled a bit too short. But Clark of Notts played very well. He got 100. And it meant that in the morning, day 2, Notts needed a critical 8 more runs to get to 300. The significance of that is if you get to 300, you earn another bonus point. And that, of course, could have become vital in the hunt for the title. Day 2, I went again. Was an amazing day of things that happened. Notts were all out for 296. They did not get that third vital bonus point. They only got 2. And then Yorkshire. Well, Yorkshire performed horrifically. I can't describe it any other way. They got 73 and were all out in 29 overs. There were 7 batsmen failed to reach double figures. And young Everson of Notts, very good young lad, I think he's only 19, he took 4 for 13. Notts obviously enforced the follow-on because for those of you who are not massively into cricket, you have to get within 150 of the team batting first in order to avoid the follow-on. Notts made Yorkshire follow on, and it really did look as if it was game over. There was over 2 days to go, and Yorkshire are following on. Just tell you a bit about the lunch interval, because it was interesting. At the lunch interval, there was the retirement of a very famous county cricketer. And in front of, I hope you can see that, in front of the pavilion at the lunch interval.
A bit, Chris, just, that's it. And down a bit. And
Fire.
A bit.
Fire.
Yeah, that's it.
And what happened was it was the official retirement of Peter Trego, who played principally for Somerset throughout his career, but then joined Notts a couple of years ago. And all of the staff formed that circle and spoke to him and about him. It was a very, very well organised thing. What they'd also done, you say there's no sentiment in sport, what Notts did is they arranged for Trego to go on as a substitute fielder late in the morning, which meant that he could be invited to lead the team off. And that was the last thing he ever did as a professional cricketer. He led the team off. And they didn't need to do that, but they did think it through. Nice touch. As Peter Trego played 22 seasons of county cricket as a pro, and he scored over 18,000 runs in all 3 formats. This man was a really good pro. As he came off, and I was just stood there, he came straight towards me and I bagged a photograph. And it's a really good photograph. I said, can I have your photograph? Meaning, can I just have your photograph? And he went into pose mode with his presentation and his newly given cap. And there were no photographers there. So I'm going to send that to him because he might not have got it. And I think that was a very nice thing for him to do for someone he doesn't know. He now becomes a professional golfer. That's his career. He's going to be a pro golfer. Right. At the tea interval of day 2, my mum, Mary, on her first visit to Trent Bridge since my dad passed away, and myself were invited into the Notts President's Suite for tea. And we were invited by our very long-standing friend, Peter Hacker. Peter was Notts Retford's professional throughout the 70s. He helped Retford win 3 consecutive titles. He then became a fearsomely fast opening bowler for Notts, and he's now a committee member of Notts. The 40th anniversary of Notts winning the county championship back in 1981 with Peter in the team was the reason for this special occasion. And several of the team, something like 11 or 12 of the team, were in attendance. This was the first championship Notts had won since 1929. So it was a big thing for the club to win back in 81. Peter had another massive surprise for us in that one of the guests attending, making a rare appearance at the ground, was none other than Derek Randall, who was a leading member of the 81 team. A big surprise and tremendous entertainment. And here's my mum, bless her. Here's my mum meeting Derek Randall in the President's Suite. I'll just take that out of the folder. It's reflecting rather badly. Just a candid photograph. There's Peter Hacker in the background, and there's my mum having a chat with Derek. It was a brilliant tea time.
Photo.
Peter then took it upon himself to go round everyone with a picture I'd brought. I'd only brought it for him, and he went around the whole room on his own and he got all the players who were there to autograph it from 1981, and then gave it me back. So all the people that were in the room, and Dickie Bird, because Dickie Bird was an invited guest. He's put to Mary and Chris best wishes, Dickie, and he was obviously an umpire in 81, and he was a guest of the club. And Richard Hadley now had sent a personal letter of congratulations to this gathering, which had been read out at the lunch interval. Just to remind you, in 1981, Richard Hadley took 105 wickets at 14.89. He was the only man in England to take 100 wickets in that cricket season. I'd also taken with me, again to show Peter as my great friend, a 1981 Championship China plate, a commemorative plate, just in case he hadn't got one. And he took this plate round all the room. He showed everyone this plate. And when he brought it back, he said, when my late dad's house was cleared, his own plate was thrown away.
Oh.
So Mum and I had a quick conversation, and we both decided that the plate that I'd brought should remain with the man who actually helped win Notts the title. Nice. And we left it with Peter. And here's a picture which I greatly treasure. There's Peter Hacker, who was my teammate in the 70s for Retford. And if you can see that, that's the commemorative plate. It was only gathering dust in my loft. And so it's now with Peter Hacker, who played 6 matches that year and took 17 wickets in the championship. It was the right thing to do. I'm very, very pleased I found out that, in fact, his had got lost, and he should have that plate.
Yeah.
So back to the cricket. Yorkshire now batting again. But partnerships between Lythe and Hill, and then Lythe and Cola Cadmore, which was at 103, meant that the match closed that night with Yorkshire, surprisingly, on 169 for 3, and Adam Lythe not out 74. So the game is, progressing. And we go to day 3, and again, I turned up. Well, Yorkshire continued this amazing rearguard action in the morning, with Notts straining everything they can to try to win the game and to still win the title at this stage. They started 54 runs behind the Notts total with only 7 wickets left. And Yorkshire kept fighting. Brooke got 42, young Thompson 44, and the even younger Revis 34. But it was Adam Lythe in his testimonial here who took Notts on. Fierce determination and not a little skill. He battered almost the entire day. He faced 381 deliveries, and his innings lasted deep into the afternoon. He was in for 126 overs. His score of 153, I have to say, guys, is one of the best innings I've seen in several years, and it was a memorable innings in his own career. I was watching from the pavilion on the 3rd day, and when he came in for tea, I was very near the railings, and so I took my own picture of him coming in at the tea interval. He's on 147 there, and just a staggering lesson in how to play proper cricket. Yorkshire finally got to 396, which was a brilliant effort considering the first innings disaster. And they set Notts 173 to win. Now, if Notts win, they get 21 points, and they could still be runners-up to Lancashire if Warwickshire didn't go on to beat Somerset on the same day. There was a bit more play left in day 3, and Notts finished after 11 overs on 41 for 1, needing 132 to win on the 4th day. Well, on the 4th day, Notts duly got those runs. They won by 5 wickets, and they won it just after lunch. I have to say, being in the pavilion, you could see the level of genuine sportsmanship between the two teams. It was they're obviously they got a lot of mutual respect for each other.
Chris,
Okay, guys, just a few notes really from the last part of the county cricket season. The last time I spoke about the Notts Yorkshire fixture, I think Yorkshire had just finished their innings. They actually got to 396, having only got 73 in their first effort. And I do say to you, it was a pretty heroic sort of rearguard action, mainly down, as I highlighted to the group, mainly down to this fella, Adam Lyth, who scored 153 and seemed to bat for the whole week. It set Notts 173 to win, absolutely critical to win and get 21 points minimum in order to put the heat on Warwickshire, because if Warwickshire didn't go on to beat Somerset, Notts would creep through as runners-up and into the Bob Willis final. So day 3 finished with a few overs bowled at Notts. They were 41 for 1 overnight and needed 132 to win on day 4. I hesitated about going because, if a team only needs 132, but then again, it's the last match of the year, so what the hell, get in the car and go again. Notts duly did win by 5 wickets, so less possibly convincing than you'd have thought when Yorkshire only got 73 in their first knock. Ben Slater for Notts, opening the batting, played particularly well. He was 79 not out, and it looks a thoroughly good young player for Notts. I would mention the sportsmanship of both teams because it's easy to knock professional players. At the end of the game, whilst observing as much social protocols as possible, both teams congratulated each other on a very hard, very fairly played match. And it was evident that all the players had great respect for each other's efforts. Meanwhile, Warwickshire have got an ex-Yorkshire opening bat as the skipper. They've got Tim Bresnan, who is an absolute legend, catching flies and playing very well for them. And they're coached by the former Yorkshire bowler, Mark Robinson. So they had a bit of help from God's country.
Who's the opening back, Chris? Sorry.
Will Rhodes. Yeah, Will Rhodes left Yorkshire about a year ago, was appointed captain and has had a wonderful season. Okay, so they did go on to complete a victory over Somerset in their own game, and therefore pit both Lancashire and Nottinghamshire for their 8th championship title. If you remember, is that me?
No.
If you remember, I mentioned that Notts had failed to get their 3rd batting point in the game when they fell a 4 runs short of 300. If you get 300, you get another batting point. And they didn't do it. They were all out. Well, if is a big word in sport, but if they had got that point by only 4 runs several days before this event I'm talking about, they would have finished second by half a point, not Lancashire. Wow. And Lancashire would not have been at Lord's, and therefore they would have spared us from their horrendous performance against Warwickshire. It was truly a horror story. And Warwickshire, well done to them, won the championship and the Bob Willis Trophy. The Division 1 table finished Warwickshire 77 points, Lancashire 73.5, and Notts 73. So if ever, yes, that's me.
How do you get 0.5 of a point?
Oh, don't listen.
Those tables and wondering about it.
Look, don't ask impossible questions because I can't work that one out either. But it's to do with what points you carried over from the regular season. And I'm ever so sorry, Ron. It'd take far too long. So I don't know.
Apparently got half a win.
You get half a win, yeah. So they're the rules, such as they are. Now,
Well, they carried 5 points over Notts, didn't they? So it was.
that's right.
Became 2.5. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. After the victory, Luke Fletcher of Notts was named the PCA's Player of the Season. He was the highest ranked county cricketer in England. He was also the bloke that took the most wickets, 66. Wow. And Luke Fletcher was is a very popular man in cricket. And he was a highly respected opponent of my old club, Retford, in his early career. I did have the, whatever you want to call it, a playing against him. And I know Luke pretty well. And at the end of the game, I asked him if he'd sign his recently published autobiography, which he did with a big smile and a couple of words. And he's autographed it very nicely in the fly cover. So he's a thoroughly good bloke on and off the field, and a well-deserved award. His book, by the way, is called Tales from the Front Line, and it's quite an unusual book. It is full of tales. It's full of things that have happened to him, and it raises a smile or two. It's a good autobiography.
You rent an annex in Keith's loft, Chris, to store all this stuff?
Yeah. I mean, periodically, he and I nip round and swap items in each other's lofts.
Right.
And occasionally we thin it out, but it's only occasionally.
No.
Look, it's only a book. I mean, it didn't take much room off. On leaving the match, I was fortunate. I didn't plan it. You don't plan these things. I just stood on the pavilion, and I ended up in a conversation with both Richard Kettleborough, who several of you will know as an ex-Yorkshire player, and probably the leading umpire in the world, and also the match referee, a man called Tim Boone, who might be slightly less well known to you. Here's a piece of memorabilia from the loft. So in 2005, Tim Boone was the assistant manager of the Ashes winning team under Duncan Fletcher. And if you look at the back left, right at the back left is Tim Boone in this famous England picture of them winning the Ashes. That picture, by the way, is an official picture, because in the official pictures, they have airbrushed out the bottle of Budweiser that Strauss was holding, because they weren't a sponsor. So if you see Budweiser, it's unofficial and real. If you never see Budweiser, it's doctored. Just a small point of trivia for you guys. I had a lovely conversation with Tim Boone, who comes from Retford, and I'm pleased to say he confirmed he's bought a house recently. He's going to return to Retford and help local cricketers. I do say to you that Tim would be a brilliant guy on Zoom. So I've got his numbers now. And if you like, I will try and get hold of him and say, Tim, give us a few, about your career, which is fantastic. Played for Yorkshire, Leicestershire, and helped run the team that won the Ashes. I'll try and get him.
It'd be a real boom.
It'd be an absolute boom. God. Other quick notes to finish. Just an interesting stat that I saw. Ollie Pope plays for Surrey and England, good young player. In his final innings for Surrey, he scored 274. If he'd scored 275, he would have averaged 100 for the season.
Wow.
And if his average was only 30, what was it? Hang on, 1 second. It was only 99.4 for the whole season. Coincidentally, that is Don Bradman's batting average in Test match cricket, 99.4.
Yeah, he's a bit like our ball Bradman for a duck, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. He would have averaged 100. But just thought in a game that wasn't significant in some respects, the guy did brilliantly well and fell one run short of 100 average. To finish, I just wanted to mention some retired players, because they go under the radar, and they've all had stellar careers. I did mention to you this fella, the Notts player, Peter Trego, and Peter posed for that photograph as he left the ground for the last time in his career. Just to say to you, Peter Trego played 22 years of professional cricket, and he made 540 appearances for Somerset before he joined Notts a couple of years ago. And when he joined Notts, he did win the T20 Blast with Notts. He scored over 18,000 runs and he took 646 wickets. His runs included a 54-ball century against Yorkshire. So top player goes off to be a professional golfer now, another career. There are two or three people I just mentioned. Ricky Clark. Ricky Clark has retired from all forms of professional cricket. He's 39 years old, plays for Surrey, and he played for England on numerous occasions. He scored nearly 18,000 runs and took nearly 800 wickets in his career. He also caught 587 catches, which is quite a staggering amount of catches, mainly in the slips, which is quite a statistic. And he goes on now to be head of cricket at a King Edward School in, is it Whitley? Pronounced Whitley. And he does that within probably the next few days. A very famous county cricketer retired called Darrell Mitchell, Worcestershire. He only ever played for Worcestershire. And he's 37. He made his debut in 2005. He scored 14,000 runs, mainly as an opening batsman. And he has the distinction of being the only Worcestershire player ever to take 100 wickets in limited overs cricket. He is a former chairman of the PCA, and he goes now to take up a full-time administrative job in the PCA. And if he helps the PCA like he played cricket, they've got a good one. An Essex player has retired called Ryan Scarter. Has anyone heard of Ryan Scarter? Yeah. Scarter was South African born. He's 41 years of age, and he played for Essex from 2003, scoring over 17,000 runs. He's been their captain. When he was first captain, they won promotion. The following year, they won the league county championship. 2 years after that, they won it again. He's also won the Bob Willis Trophy. He's an international player because he represents the Netherlands. And he actually, although he's retired from county cricket, he has been selected and he will be playing in the World Cup in a few months' time for the Netherlands. His highest career score was scored for the Netherlands against Canada in South Africa. He made 259. And on 3 occasions, he's the ICC Associate Player of the Year. He's also won the IPL twice with the Kolkata Knight Riders. I read that out as if I really know something about the IPL. I've never heard of it, but there we go. He did very well. Sorry about that. And the final player to mention who's retired is Varun Chopra, also of Essex. He made 425 appearances and scored nearly 18,000 runs with 34 centuries, again, mainly as an opening bat, which is an outstanding achievement, and won various things. And so he's retired. Well, that's it, guys, from the roving broadcast of Trent Bridge, which seems like 3.5 months ago already. But you'll forgive me for mentioning my team. So there's my team. And I can confirm now that we're not the champions. We are the runners-up. And so we're very proud of being the runners-up, and we're not challenging any further decisions. And we're very pleased with the performance of all the team to win promotion to the Basketball League Second Division. That's it, mate. I'm up to date, and I hope there was a few things there of interest.
Brilliant. Yeah. Bravo, thanks.